good morning. We are going to be working on 20.2 today. 20.1 we kind of skip over because it's just recognizing, seeing shaded boxes. I want to work on the actual part of the work, so we're gonna skip over 20.1. We're gonna start here working with percent, decimal, and fraction. So we're going to be rotating between the two. If we're given a percent, we will have to write that as a fraction and as a decimal. If we have a decimal, we'll have to write it as a fraction and as a percent, and then the other way around. So let's start with this. The first thing I want to recognize is that the word percent means per 100. Just like you have 100 cents to a dollar, when we work with that word cent, percent, it means per 100. So if I have 75%, what that means is I'm saying 75 per 100. So that's going to be our first step. If I have a percentage that they give me and I want to write it as a fraction, my first step is going to be writing that same number, 75% over 100. Okay, so 75 per 100. I can simplify it, but at this point I want you to get in the habit of just writing it over 100. Okay, then let's say I need to change this to a decimal. Well, I know that 75 over 100, if I write as a decimal, I know that this is my 10th spot and that's my 100th spot. So a way of saying this, 75 over 100 is 75 100ths. This is, I put that last digit, that 5, in the 100th spot. So 10ths and 100ths. And now I've written 75% as a fraction and as a decimal. So not too bad. But let's go ahead and look at some of the other ones. I'm going to be using your RW115 as an example. So let's say I have 44%. 44%. Percent means per 100. So I'm going to say 44 over 100. We've written it now as a fraction. As a decimal, I know that my 2 decimal spots, I have 44, that should be my 10ths, that should be my 100ths, and it's now written as a decimal. Another way that I can do this is I can work from my percent symbol and I can move 2 spots. And that would give me a decimal spot right there, 0.44, and now I'm working with the same thing. So I move 2 spots because per 100, it's almost like I'm working with those 2 zeros. Okay, I'd move it 2 spaces. Let's try another one. Let's say I have something that's over 100%. If you get a perfect score on your math test, you get 100%. So anything above that is greater than 1. So we have an example here of 128%, 128%. So I can write 128. It still means per 100. It doesn't mean per 1,000. We don't want to add another 0 there. We still leave it as 100, per 100. Now, with this 128, again, I can move 2 decimal spots from that percent symbol, and I make it 1.28. That's my decimal version of 128%. Now remember, anything over 100% is going to be greater than 1. So it's okay to have a 1 there in front of the decimal spot now. It's going to be 1.28. I just moved 2 spots. Let's try another one. Let's say I have like number 4 on the front here, it gives me 5%. Again, percent means per 100. So I'm still going to say 5 over 100. But now, if this 5 is in the 100th spot, I have to still fill in something into that 10th spot, okay? So again, if I were to move the 2 decimal spots, I create my decimal there, but I have to fill this in. So I'd add a 0 there. If I had just done 0.5, that's actually 50%, okay? That's 1/2, 50%. So I want to make sure that I move it 2 decimal spots. Let's say I have something like 464%. That's still 464 per 100. And again, if I move that decimal spot from here from the percent, I move it right there. I have to have that 4 in front of the decimal, and then I have 64. So now I've written this as a fraction and as a decimal, okay? Let's say we work the other way around. I'm given 0.45 as a decimal. We want to write that as a fraction and as a percent. So I know this is my 10th spot, this is my 100th spot. So I'm going to say 45 over 100. I I've written it as a fraction. And we know that anything per 100, that's percent. So this is 45%. And now we have it as both. Let's try another one. Let's say I have 2.34. Again, 2.34. Now I'm working with a decimal here. So let's say I move it backwards, back toward the percent symbol. Notice back here when we had the percent symbol, we moved away from it. Now we're going to be moving toward it. It's not there yet, so we want to move 2 spots. And it's going to become 234%. Anything that's greater than 1 should give you a percentage greater than 100%. So if your number's higher than 1, we'd have higher than 100%. It's okay to have a bigger number there. 234%. Percent means per 100. So 234 over 100. And in this case, again, we do not have to simplify our fractions. It's okay to leave it as per 100 unless it says to write it in simplest form, okay? But I want to see that process. I want to see this before you were to ever think of simplifying it. Let's go ahead and try another one, and then I'll let you go. Let's say I have 7/10. It's already written as a fraction. I need to make it a percent. So I can create that proportion. I know that I have to create something per 100. So if I multiply by 10, that gives me 100. If I multiply by 10 here, then I get 70 over 100. That would be 70%. And then I can also move that decimal over and it gives me 0.70 or just 0.7. So now I've worked both ways. I have a fraction to a percent into a decimal. I had decimals into percent and fractions, and then I had percent and moved it both ways. So you are going to now work on the PW side. That's page 115, PW 115, and you're going to do numbers 1 through 16 all, and you're going to be working all different directions. Okay, good luck.